In this episode, I'll be giving my review and reaction to the 2026 movie Peaky Blinders, The Immortal Man. Brand new, just came out a couple of days ago, so let's talk about Peaky Blinders, The Immortal Man. It's been a while since I've thought and felt the impact of Peaky Blinders with the season ending in 2022, early 2022. I watched it when it came out on BBC Network. I was finding ways to go and watch that when the episodes came out weekly. I didn't even wait for the Netflix. I was so excited. I had just watched Peaky Blinders over COVID. I remember specifically being sick with COVID and watching Peaky Blinders, and to get it back 4 years later in a movie, and there's always those TV shows and those movies that are like in the works, and they're, Batman 2, it's going to come out at some point. You just don't even think about it because eventually it's going to make its way to you. Well, 2026 is the year that these movies are all coming out. And if this is any indication of what we can expect from this year in movies, we're in for a great year. I loved Peaky Blinders, The Immortal Man. Felt like a true callback and almost a season seven. This movie only has a runtime of an hour and 52 minutes. I low key wish it was double that. It felt like, the beginning half is a little bit slow and we want to dive right into it. We want to get back into it, but you have to build it up. There's been a time jump and we have to re-meet our main character, Tommy Shelby, and get to know his son, what's happened with his son, Duke, in the time since. Ada's still around, and it's awesome. I think just being back in this universe is amazing, and I can't wait for the spin-off series. This movie features great that build-up music that they have for you on Peaky Blinders, and everyone truly returns to form in this movie. The ending is peak to this movie. You have to go and watch this movie in theaters if you can. If not, it comes out on Netflix in a week, so maybe a waste of money on my part, $17, but to me it was worth it. And I don't want to get into it too much without going into the spoiler part, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, this is where you drop off the review, because the first opening scene of Peaky Blinders, The Immortal Man, is the one and only Tommy Shelby telling us that Netflix has this coming out, so please don't spoil it. Don't be a spoiler. So this is a very big spoiler-free warning. That was my spoiler-free review, kind of. I'm not really bad at giving spoiler-free reviews. As you know, I like to get my thoughts and reactions on the movie. I would say you have to go watch it, and then once you watch it, come back and watch the rest of this review. Really well done movie by Stephen Knight and Tom Harper. So click off if you haven't seen it. So let's get into my thoughts and reactions to this movie, starting with the slow half, which I think, are the slow first half, which I think, in my opinion, is the biggest detractor from this movie, where you're kind of like, where is this going? When are we going to get back into form? And I think this is one of those movies where when you watch the trailer, it hurts you, and I am a big trailer person. I know some people, actually a lot of people I talk to, don't like to watch trailers at all, but I do watch trailers, and it gets hype. I think one of my favorite trailers ever is Peaky Blinders season 6. If you know, you know. One last deal to be done. Amazing trailer, had me ready to run through a wall, and I know it builds hype around the movie. So obviously in the trailer they're kind of showing you all the good parts, and by knowing the trailer, you know a little bit of a couple of scenes that happen. But really, the first half to me was just a little bit slow, and I felt like a lot of the ideas we explored in season 6, we were exploring in the first half of this movie once again, just with some new wrinkles behind it. Obviously, a lot of the, spoiler alert, one last time, the family is kind of dispersed, where, obviously John was gunned down in season 4, Finn is kicked out of the family, but Tommy has kind of become a recluse, where he's only living with Johnny Dogs, writing a book, which honestly, until I just said that, forgot is a big part of this movie. But Duke is on his own. Ada kind of does her own thing with her son in the city, and Tommy is on his own. It seems like Ada comes by every now and then to visit, but I don't know. It felt like, we're killing pigeons, and he's kind of seeing the visions of his daughter and stuff, which is good character development. Like, if this was a season 7, that's where this works. But as a movie, it's kind of like, all right, let's get going here. We're an hour in and nothing's really happened. But I will say, once we hit a certain plot point, we go straight into Peaky Blinders. But I will say, I have to be honest, and it's a weird movie to review, where you watch 6 seasons of a show and a character, and then all of a sudden they're on a movie screen. It's kind of like that Prison Break movie, where it's like, does this count as part of the show, or is this its own idea? And how do I rate this as a proper idea on its own, or do I just rate it as like a season 6.5? We'll get to that later. But Yeah, I will say this movie was a little bit of a slow burn, and I will say the opening scene, the very opening scene, is insane, where you have these ladies and they're all talking, and then boom, a bomb hits them and they're all dead in Birmingham, and that leads into one of the best casting choices I think I've seen in a while. Barry Keoghan as Duke Shelby was amazing, and he did a great job of being kind of his son's or his father's son, if that makes sense, where you can see there is a little bit of Tommy in him, and it's not on the surface even, but you can just like, and I liked Duke. So watching season 6, Duke is, if you were watching season 6 live, Duke was just a random pull. Like, he had a son with a gypsy from out of nowhere, and now all of a sudden he has Duke, and it's like, where was this kid all along? And none of the other kids are really a factor. I guess Charlie's on the front war fighting there in the war, and Ruby obviously has passed away, so Duke is really the one to step up and take the mantle. And I thought Duke had some really standout scenes, even in the last season of Peaky Blinders. Obviously, they went ahead and switched the actor here for a more bigger name and honestly good casting, like I said. But I thought Duke had some awesome scenes in season 6 where he kicks Finn out of the family, does a bunch of stuff around. Like basically becomes a Peaky Blinder in like 3 episodes. So I liked the Duke character, and so I was curious to see how he is kind of perceived in this one. And I liked that this isn't a movie just like Tommy doing a side quest. Like, it's his son Duke that we know from the show. I really appreciated that part. And Barry Keoghan, like I mentioned before, does a really good job of being this kind of shithead. Like, he's like around my age, like 25, taking over the mantle of a family and just leading these boys into like pure destruction and chaos mode, and kind of the original Peaky Blinders, but way less refined because Tommy is crazy and he does violent things, and he's not like the best person in terms of like being a gangster and all that, but he has like a moral code where it seems like Duke has kind of just let that go. And I think Barry Keoghan does a good job of wanting that. And one of his motivations early on is trying to outlive Tommy, because everyone keeps talking about Tommy, and it's in a weird spot where if we left off in season 6, Tommy's kind of open ending on what he's going to do, but he just kind of goes to the wayside, but people still know he's around. So he's kind of living in his father's shadow still until he passes away, or until the day that Tommy does pass away, he'll be living into his shadow. So I liked the casting of Duke. I thought Barry Keoghan did a great job in this movie. Moving on, we also get some characters I would like to see a little bit more and hear more about what happened to some of the other characters, but it was great to see Sophie Rundle return as Ada. I always thought Ada was an interesting character as kind of that one sister among many brothers and kind of the one with a level head. So I thought her being here was good, and her doing her kind of moral good thing where she's like going around trying to do the best thing possible for everyone and being that level-headed one and trying to bring the family together, bring Tommy back with Finn. I like seeing Ada a lot, and I wish we could see more of the people. We get Simon Stagg and we get Charlie and we get Johnny Dogs, but we don't. I guess Jeremiah died off screen, Arthur died off screen seemingly, which we'll talk about later, and yeah, it felt like we were kind of missing out on some of the people. Where's Isaiah? Where's Isaiah? Did he go with Finn? We don't see Finn at all in this movie, which I thought was pretty surprising. And yeah, so I thought I like seeing Ada back, and I think her and Tommy being the last two left makes sense of the brothers, just because they're probably like the two most logical. And so to see their relationship continue was awesome. And so I liked what we got of Ada in the movie, which we'll get into what happens to Ada later on. Also, as I mentioned before, Johnny Dogs I think is the perfect person for him to live with. That just makes perfect sense. Where Johnny Dogs is always that loyal soldier for Tommy, even in season 6, helping with the declassifying Michael's plan and helping him rig the car bomb or not rig the car bomb. So he was the one to help out Tommy there. So it makes sense that Tommy basically owes Johnny Dogs his life, and Johnny Dogs is like a loyal soldier for Tommy. So it makes perfect sense that those two are together. Some additions that I did like. I did like Tim Roth as a villain. He's kind of this interesting figure where at the beginning of the movie he joins through the smoke. I guess that was like supposed to be some symbolism maybe, where it's like this whole scheme of this. I don't know if this is even real. This does seem real because there was a post-credit scene. I think right when I was walking out, I saw something on the screen. But apparently during the World War II, Germany was trying to overflood the United Kingdom's economy with pounds and money, so that their money just became worthless, and that would win them the war without having to struggle on the battlefields, which is sort of it is kind of an ethical way to win a war, but obviously no one wants to root for Germany in a World War II movie setting scene, and where especially Tim Roth is saying "Hail Hitler" on multiple occasions. But I thought Tim Roth was an interesting figure and just person to be in this villain role. Obviously, he plays what's that guy? Abomination in Incredible Hulk, and he returns in She-Hulk, which we're not talking about She-Hulk in the Peaky Blinders review. Anyways, Tim Roth I thought was a fun addition, and he's a great actor, and I enjoy everything Tim Roth is a part of. So I thought he played a great role here, and he's kind of taking advantage of those downsides that Duke has, where Duke wants to be like his father, and not only like his father, better than his father. So when Tim Roth's character comes to him with this idea, hey, I'm going to need you to help me flood in this money, he is willing to do it. And he's like, yeah, this is bigger than anything my father ever did, which that's the difference between Duke and Tommy early is Tommy was never thinking in terms of this. He was just doing what's best for the family, where Duke doesn't have that family. His dad has kind of abandoned him. His mother abandoned him as a kid, and he's just kind of been like grown up into nothing until he finally found his dad later on, but he's not used to having a family or people to look out for. So that's kind of the key difference between Tommy and Duke, which I think will play out in a spin-off series if they do continue on with this story. But yeah, I thought Tim Roth was a fun presence. I keep saying the same thing over and over again. Tim Roth, they have a couple fun scenes together where they bring in this British person, and this he's on their team. He's trying to help them out in like the Parliament, but he's been talking to his mistress, so Duke's got to shoot him a couple times, and Tim Roth's like, you got to give him one more, even though the guy's clearly dead. But it was interesting to see Tim Roth's mental manipulation of Duke at the beginning of this movie and throughout the movie, where there is a certain scene where I'm about to get to it, but it's gonna change the whole direction of this movie. I will say, going through the Peaky Blinders series, the gypsy storyline of Tommy being this gypsy and like the gypsies being able to know everything and everything, not my favorite part of Peaky Blinders, if I'm just being honest. I think it adds an interesting aspect, but I felt like, especially in season 6, and now they're kind of throwing it in your face and being like, here it is, and you're going to have to deal with it, which it helped bring Rebecca Ferguson onto my screen, so I'm not upset with that. I do like Rebecca Ferguson. I'm watching Silo right now, and obviously she's great in Dune. So I'm beginning to really appreciate Rebecca Ferguson as an actress, and she does a really good job in this movie. But initially, when she came out, I was like, "What are we doing here?" She just breaks into Tommy's house and starts screwing around, doing like some gypsy shit. It is what it is. But I did come to appreciate her part in this movie, and you have to respect the gypsy aspect of it. So not my like number one reason why I'm watching Peaky Blinders, but eventually I came around to this part. But initially it was like, Then we get to the real pure petroleum 93 level gas, whatever it's called, at the gas station. Ada comes back to the house and asks Tommy to come back and help Duke. He really needs it. And Duke's going down in a bad direction. He's being helped, or he's trying to help out a really bad man, and Tommy is retired from the game. It's one of those classic movie tropes of Tommy being done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm not. I won't come back. Ada's like, please, bro, you have to come back. And he's like, no, I won't. But then finally, like Johnny Dogs convinces him, and he does decide to come back. He finally, we get the great music of him putting on the suit, getting in the car, Johnny Dogs driving him, and him getting ready to go. And he gets that vision when they're driving, sees her in the street, um, and that is because Tim Roth's character found out she was bringing up charges against Duke for the weapons they stole at the beginning of the movie. And so this would help take Duke away from the scene and not help Tim Roth's character smuggle that money in. So Tim Roth goes to Duke and is like, hey, you got to take care of Ada. You got an Ada problem. And I thought that Duke was maybe going to go through with it and actually kill her. But luckily, there is a little bit of Shelby in Duke, and he doesn't do it. And he's crying in a phone booth, like freaking out that he can't do it. Continues to follow her, and he's about to go warn her that, hey, someone's coming after you. She's walking with her son in a what felt like so long, very tense scene of her just walking with her son. Y'all gotta get a car, man. Because Tim Roth walks out of the freaking car, shoots Ada in the head. I was like, I mean, I'm still thinking. I watched this last night. I'm still thinking about this. Ada Shelby just catches a bullet to the head like that quick. I can't even put it into words. Like, that's Ada, man. That's the one who would never get killed like that. It's so brutal. It's just awful. And Duke's crying. Her son was with her. It's awful. This is like probably worse than anything's even on the even on the show. Yeah, John gunned down, but he was like being a dumbass. Ada was just walking in the street. That was one of the most shocking moments, I have to say, I think I've ever seen in movie history. And I think it's because that's where the TV show aspect builds into it, where you have this lore from the TV show, knowing Ada's character, and then that happens, and it's like, no, it's still shocking me. I don't know how much I can't even convey it properly. But this, from here on out, from this moment here on out, is where this turned into a great movie, a great fucking movie. And you'll remember where you were watching this movie from here on out. It was insane. Um, so it goes right back into classic Peaky Blinders. Tommy re-emerging in the pub was amazing, and this was a big part of the trailer scenes, but him kind of walking into this pub and everyone being like, "Who the hell are you?" He turns off the music and just stands there looking straight ahead. And this guy's trying to chirp with him. He's like, "Hey, me and you're gonna dance," and he like pulls a gun to his head. And there's this one kid, I think it's Duke's second in command, who recognizes Tom. He's like, "Oh fuck! Like these guys don't know what they're in for." The guy finally has enough of Tom. He's like, "All right, bro, like we're done." But Tommy's like, "No." He takes a grenade out of his jacket, unpins the grenade, and puts it in the jacket of the other guy. And the other guy just runs out with the grenade. Obviously, a very stupid decision. Me and my friend were both saying, "Why would you just run out with the grenade? Why wouldn't you just toss it somewhere?" But that was just classic Tommy, like imposing his will just instantly. Gave me big flashbacks to that scene of him walking in the bar in season six, just completely aura farming and taking over the place. And this is just awesome from here on out. Like this is just when you geek out on Peaky Blinders from here on out. And so he's back. He's trying to bait Tim Roth's character into finding him at the morgue for Ada, which he does. The guy comes with a like MP40, starts spraying, runs out of ammo, and it's kind of like a chance interaction. They miss out on each other, killing each other. And so Tommy is finally able to go ahead and grieve Ada, which brings me to the point that I really did not like about this movie. And obviously, I've not mentioned Arthur much in this to this point in this review. Arthur was a great character. Went through his challenges, and for me, the thing about Tommy and Arthur's relationship was that no matter what Arthur did, no matter what stupid shit he did with opium, with raging, Tommy was always there to help him. He hired Linda to help him. They got married. Well, they got married before or after he hired her. It doesn't matter. No matter what Arthur did, Tommy would always be there with welcoming arms and ready for him to come back in. And he was kind of that thing that kept Tommy sane, and well, Arthur or Tommy definitely kept Arthur sane. But the idea that Tommy would kill Arthur, I just really didn't like that. And I get it, where Arthur's this addict on opium and he's just too out of control, so you have to take control or take matters into your own hand. And there was a bit of rage and alcohol. I don't care if Tommy was blackout drunk; he would never do this shit. And I just didn't like how they did that. I thought it's fine if you write him off and the actor didn't want to do it. I guess the actors, I've read on an article, the actor's been going through some personal problems. I don't know what the case is and why he didn't want to be in this movie, or there just was a correct or a creative decision not to bring him onto this movie. But I thought this was a very stupid plot point of Tommy killing his brother, and I guess that's what makes him like eat himself alive and not want to go outside ever. But I thought there was better ways to do that. Obviously, he's lost a lot in his family. He just had to kill his aunt's son in the last season. Like Michael, he had a ton of stuff that could be on his mind. I don't think we had to kill Arthur, especially, well, we had, like, Tommy had to kill Arthur. I think Arthur could have just died and that would have done the same effect. I thought that was pretty weak of a plot point of him being the one to kill Arthur. I thought that was kind of a turn your back to the whole series. So that was the big part of the movie that I didn't really like. I thought there were other ways to write him out of it if that's the route you were going to take, but I won't spend too much time on that. So we get the perfect movie sequence. It's like a heist sequence where the boys are back together. Simon Stack has reemerged, and they're going to make this sort of heist appearance onto Tim Roth's base so that Tommy can have the chance to kill him. And I love the music playing. Tommy's going under by himself in the tunnels, which is a big callback to him having PTSD from being in the tunnels in World War One. And I love this reveal of Duke telling him the information. And obviously, no, it's not going to be true because Duke's going to have Tommy's back no matter what. But Duke is not helping Tommy. Simon Stagg, by the way, has on the boats. He jumps off. That man was underwater for a good 2 minutes. Simon Stagg knows how to hold his breath. Anyways, W Duke for not selling out. I think we're meant to like Duke, and I do like Duke. If they decide to go that way for the spinoff, I will be seated for a Duke spinoff, and I like Duke in the regular show. So Duke redeems himself by helping out Tommy and giving Tim Roth's character the wrong information, which my friend was mentioning how this didn't even come into my mind, but how Tim Roth's character, the villain, didn't even care or just trustly or blindly trusted Duke, which I thought was a little stupid. He was kind of stupid in that part, but that doesn't really come to my mind when I'm watching this insanity play out. So we get to the perfect ending, in my opinion, for Tommy, where Tim Roth's character basically is driving out. The money is burned. Most of his guards are dead. He's driving the car straight at Tommy, shoots through the windshield, shoots Tommy twice, eats the bullets, and Tommy's just standing there like, "Bitch, you better not," but he does. And then Tommy gets the one shot, headshot, boom, and he's ready to take on the impact of the car and die. Um, but Duke jumps in and saves him at the last minute. So I think Tommy could have naturally died from his wounds here, being shot twice by probably a pretty advanced pistol. Seemed like he wasn't really ready to live more. But anyways, there has been a bullet given to him by Rebecca Ferguson's character that has Tommy's name on it, and she's saying a bullet will give you peace. And so that's kind of the way we go here with Tommy just needing peace after all this. Now he may rest after saving everything and doing one last deal to be done, as I love to say. I literally was saying that for like 6 months on no end in 2020, in the spring of 2022. Anyways, Duke shoots him in the chest, and that is the end of Tommy's character. He has a beautiful funeral with a lot of people showing up. I guess Charlie was there, his son was there. I didn't notice who that was. I don't know how we were supposed to know that that was Charlie. But if Tommy were to go out, I think that's the perfect way for him to go out. Eats two bullets like a champion, saves the world from German rule, really, and then gives the sign off to Duke for him to do it. And Duke having the cojones to send his father into the afterlife and take over the mantle of the family, he's ready. And I don't know if they will do the spinoff on Duke because it's kind of just will be repeating what Tommy went through, but we'll see. Perfect ending, in my opinion. True send off to someone we've spent so much time with in Tommy Shelby. Initially you scratch your head a little bit at the movie and the end of season 6 where they kind of leave it open ended, but I'm so glad that we ultimately got this and we made it. I'm still alive from 2022 to 2026 to see this part. So overall, I have to grade this on an overall movie scale. The beginning was a little bit rough for me, and I didn't like that Arthur plot point. I'm giving this an 8.4. Still a very strong score for Peaky Blinders, The Immortal Man. I'm still thinking about this movie. I saw it about 24 hours ago, and this movie's been on my head all day. And just that one scene of especially some big deaths in the movie, true send off, some great music throughout, just perfect Peaky for that last hour that you have to give this a good score. So that's where I'm going to leave Peaky Blinders, The Immortal Man. Would recommend anyone who's watched the show, you got to go check out the movie, finish the story of Tommy Shelby. Well, if you made it this far, you already know what everything happens in the movie, but you can go see it play out for yourself. So where does this rank amongst the other movies reviewed so far? This is number 17. That's crazy to say. Of 96 movies, Peaky Blinders: The Immortal Man is number 17. So this does tie Beautiful Boy, Snowpiercer, Sicario, One Battle After Another, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and Brothers at an 8.4. So obviously all 8.4s nitpicking here, but I would put this movie right in the middle of those. So above Beautiful Boy, Snowpiercer, and Sicario, and then slightly losing out to One Battle After Another, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and Brothers. Cillian Murphy movies. This is the number one Cillian Murphy movie, beating out 28 Days Later, which I gave an 8.2. Rebecca Ferguson movies. This is the lowest Rebecca Ferguson movie to date at a 8.4. Loses out to Dune, 8.5. Dune 2, 9.0. Big year for Rebecca Ferguson if we're expecting Silo season 3 later. Well, I don't know what happens in the Silo season 2. I imagine she lives. And then now this movie, like Rebecca Ferguson, man, she might be the Timothée Chalamet of actresses. Loses out to Hateful Eight, which is a 9.0. Tim Roth in both of those movies. And then this beats out Snatch, which is a 7.5. Stephen Graham, both of those movies. So one of my longer recent reviews for Peaky Blinders, The Immortal Man. What were your thoughts on Peaky Blinders, The Immortal Man? Did you stick it out and wait for Netflix, or did you go see it in theaters like I did? You just couldn't wait. I had to see this, man, and it was well worth going to theaters. So that's where I'll leave it on Peaky Blinders, The Immortal Man. What you can expect coming up in the Dubcast. We got movie reviews at the wazoo. We got Fantastic Mr. Fox, John Wick Chapter 4, and Argo. Those three will be the next three movie reviews, unless I go jump into theaters. We got to get the theater ones out first, give the people what they want, the newest movies, TV show stuff. I'm doing a lot more on social media. Stay tuned on TikTok, especially, is where I'm doing a lot of TV show stuff for now until I catch up. And we have some more live stuff coming out. I know Daredevil season 2 is coming out at the end of the month. We'll cover that. Sith, our Darth Maul is coming out too in April. Stranger Things, Tales of 85. We got a lot of stuff coming out, man. That we'll try and get back to the live TV show reactions episode by episode. That's what the people want. They don't want me to sit back and review shows from millions of years ago, which, I don't blame you for that. And then sports, we got the NBA playoffs coming up, UFC numbered events, cover all of those in the channel. So really, it's a mixed bag of everything here. And we just hit 100 subscribers. Gonna always keep saying this in the most recent videos. Thank you so much for 100 subscribers. It's only gonna continue from here. The quality's gonna get better. Everything's gonna get better. We're gonna hone in on what the fans want. So appreciate you sticking along for the whole video. Feel free to leave a like, dislike, comment, or subscribe if you feel the urge to. And I'll leave y'all with that. As always, be easy, y'all. By the order of the Peaky Blinders. One last deal to be done.